Hi there, this is Natalie. Welcome to my next video. Please remember to like, subscribe and hit the bell button to follow my art journey throughout 2021. This video is a follow-up to my Dr. Martens Bombay ink swatch video. In this video I'm using some of the inks I had left in my palette from that session to do some practice orchid paintings. As you can see, the first orchid I'm painting here is a Phalaenopsis. I've started with a pale cream wash and I then work in more detail on top. Because water-based inks are waterproof, you can lay down the inks in layers and then work on top of them without the previously applied colours moving around or mixing as long as they are given time to dry. When painting with inks, I lay down colour in two ways. I either wet the area with clear or close to clear water first so that I can then drop colour into the area and let it spread, or I place colour straight onto the dry paper with the brush loaded with neat ink or a diluted mixture. I usually do the former method when I want to let the natural bleeding effects of the ink show up and produce nice end results that show off the media I'm using. It's also an easy way to fill a larger area quickly as the ink will not spread beyond the saturated area. The wash method dries more slowly than applying ink to dry paper, so the method I use usually depends on whether the intent is to cover an area with consistent colour, or whether I want the brush strokes to be visible for textural detail. If you paint directly onto the paper absorbs the ink quickly, and when it dries it will likely leave a visible edge, so at some points you will see me lay down some colour and then quickly come back and dab it, which is usually me applying a little clear water or absorbing some colour back onto the brush to soften an edge or desaturate a colour. These inks dry very quickly, which may not work well for some people, but for me they're ideal as I like to be able to continue with the piece rather than have to leave it to dry. I can usually work around the piece I'm doing to find dry areas I can continue on, but I do have to be careful as I sometimes forget an area is still damp and accidentally bleed other colours into it, or dab some ink on my hand and smudge it elsewhere. For this flower I'm probably applying the pinks and purples over still damp cream ink, but it doesn't matter as long as I don't overload the brush with colour or make the cream areas really damp. Ink tends to really flow when you wet the paper so much that there is water visibly sitting on the top, so once you've used them for a while you start to get a good feel of what level of moisture produces how much ink migration. When adding fine detail like the little purple veins that I do at the end of this particular flower, it's important to make sure that the section is dry before attempting to apply the details, otherwise the ink will just bleed into the surrounding area. I used to assume that watercolour paint and water-based inks worked pretty much the same, but having improved a lot with inks and not with watercolour paints, I can safely say that they work very differently. It's tough for me to explain though, as I'm not just talking about the way in which you work in terms of layers. There's also something in the way the media flows through water that is very different that I find hard to put my finger on. Maybe if I follow some watercolour tutorials properly and make some headway I will figure it out, but for now all I can say is that my head just gets inks in a way that it does not get watercolour paint. So if you have tried watercolour paints and not had great results, it may be a good idea to give inks a try and see if they float your boat more. I mentioned in the swatching video that white ink works a little differently to most of the other colours. If you watch the third orchid I paint in this video, you'll see a good example of this when I drop in white alongside pinky purple colours. There is a kind of feathering that happens, and you can see this especially on the rightmost petal of the pansy-like orchid I paint. Sometimes the effect ends up a little more cloudy than this, but I really liked how the ink dried on that particular petal. I think that's everything I wanted to cover in this video, so I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of the process footage. Thanks for watching!
through the fields of our past. Feelings part our ways, keeping us close but estranged now. Dreams holding us closer. Meadows of our youth, 107 days, but recalling it backwards. Our dreams holding us closer. Ooh, we can see so clear. Ooh, we can see so clear. Blue, and you are shades of grey, living day to day. Even when we're free, it's true. The difference is the same. The colors always change, but the song is the same now. In tune, lifting us higher. Ooh, we can see so clear. 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 Over the hills and far from mine, she's waiting